million in career sales. When I finished with Cutco as a 1.3 million in career sales, number 150 all time out of over 2 million people to ever sell a Cutco knife. Biggest push over 30,000, 20-time President's Club Award winner, All-American winner, took the events team from 650 to 1.3 million in 3 years. A lot of help from James Rushing and a lot of core members and stuff on the way. Definitely could not have done it on my own. So all that to say, I've sold a knife or two in my time, and I'm really excited to be bringing you guys the goods here on Phoning for Success. When I think about phoning for success, and when I think about what it takes to actually succeed at a high level, it's a skill set that actually gets overlooked often. Everyone wants, like, the fun, sexy part of Cutco, and the fun, sexy part is the demo. It's being in front of the client, getting the deal, finding a way to get that credit card, handling the objection. At least that's for me what I always loved at a really high level. But what I figured out very quickly was that if I didn't have a strong foundation to refer back to and rely on, that it didn't matter how much fun the demo was, I wasn't going to have any demos unless I got really good at booking appointments. And by getting good at booking appointments, I have to really get good on the phone, right? So the way I'd encourage you to look at this, because let's just be honest about this, guys, like, being on the phone and booking demos is not the sexy part of the job. It's the foundation. It's the fundamental thing that's going to fill up your bank account. I really encourage each and every one of you to think about the phone as.
Jonathan, unmute yourself.
There you go. Thank you. Think about the phone as your ATM. At one point, literally, I broke numbers down to and figured out that I was making something like $3 per number I dialed or something to that effect. And so for me, that was a really easy mental way to say, hey, cool. Even if I don't feel like making calls right now, it's not really exciting, or I'd rather be doing something else, whatever that is. If I can just make 20 phone calls, because that's in my schedule right this second, or do my 5 before and 5 after, then I know that I basically just added another 60, 80, 100, 300, $500,000 to my bank account, depending on where things were at. And that was really exciting for me. And that made it really easy to put things in perspective and turn things around within that. Right. What I'm going to teach you today is part of what allowed me to have 94 consecutive weeks in a row over $1,000 sold while taking 13 vacations and making 6 figures in my first full-time year in Cutco. Okay. So anyone here who likes making money, can I get a show of hands if you like making dough? Absolutely. Right. This is the foundation. Okay. The only true part of work in our business is sitting down to call leads. If you're disciplined and can stick to a schedule, you can do and have anything you want out of this job. Right. Now, part of what I'm going to teach you today is how to actually break down and know your numbers at a really high level. Part of this is going to be some tips you guys can take and implement immediately right after this phone jam. But what I can guarantee you is that if you pay attention to this and study this and apply this in your business, it'll make you more money than you ever knew what to do with. Someone told me one time that sales is the only class I've ever taken that directly affects the size of my bank account. It's freaking awesome, right? So let's start at the top. One thing to really understand at a high level, especially for those of you that are maybe newer to Cutco or, haven't quite cracked the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 mark, whatever that is, whatever level you're at, the most important thing to know when you hop on the phone with somebody is that your tone in that first phone call is that you're essentially your verbal handshake, right? You don't get very many chances at a first impression. And so what you want to do is mirror and match wherever the client is at, right? So for example, what does that look or sound like? If someone is sitting there and saying, oh, well, maybe I'm talking to someone that's out in Beaumont or a little bit East Texas, right? Maybe they're talking a little bit slower, a little more of a country drawl, that type thing. I don't want to be the person talking really fast and going like this and saying, hey, can we book a demo, and doing like that? Because it's subconsciously at a very, very primal level. Humans originally were tribal. And so we subconsciously do not trust people that look, act, dress, or talk differently than we do, right? It's a fundamental portion. It's hardwired into us, literally going back to the time when we were cavemen and tribes. And why? Because literally it was a matter of, hey, if you look and sound like me, then you're going to help protect me when the raiders come over the hill and they try to murder and pillage the entire village, right? Now, obviously, we've progressed a very long time since those days and since that time period, but it's still hardwired into us at a very basic level because your brain is designed to keep you alive, not to keep you happy, fulfilled, or successful. Okay. So how does that play in? Because some of you are guys like, I thought we were talking about the phone and this guy's talking about psychology and raiders coming over the hill, right? It's wired into us at a base level. Most people don't even understand that this is what's happening. But when we can start to mirror somebody, there's going to be some part of them that says, oh, you know what? I like you. I don't know why. I relate to you in some capacity. You're like me, right? Which is the first step in allowing us into the door and actually booking the demo. It allows us to be effective then, right? So you want to mirror and match. Anytime you're on the phone with somebody and you're speaking with them, you want to match their tone. A really great key on this, and a way that I teach a lot of people that I work with, is say, look, on a scale from 1 to 10 energetically, 1 being very low energy, 10 being very high, I want to be 1 to 2 levels above my prospect. So I'm slightly more excited, but not so much that I'm pushing them away or it's not relatable anymore. If they're at a 5, I want to be at a 6 to a 7. If they're at an 8, I want to be a 9 to a 10. Right? The reason we want to do that is because in sales, it's just a transfer of emotion and belief. Okay. And I know I'm speaking kind of quickly for some of you guys, but this is important data to understand as you go into this, right? For why this is so important. Sales is just a transfer of emotion and belief. And so if you can do that at a high level, how do we do that? I'm relatable, but I'm also excited about this thing that I'm talking to you about, which subconsciously starts to tell them, well, they're more excited than I am. So maybe I should listen to what they have to say. Like, why are they more excited? It sparks this natural curiosity inside of us. So you want to be 1 to 2 steps ahead of wherever your prospect is energetically. Mirror and match them. This also applies, by the way, just as a tip for you guys when you go into your demos. If you have a client or a customer that's doing this one particular motion with their body, let's say they keep kind of scratching their nose or doing something, or they're kind of leaning to one direction while they're listening to you, I want to subconsciously mirror them and do this when I'm listening to them too. Because what's happening is, again, I'm showing up as very similar to the way they are. And subconsciously that's telling them, hey, I trust you, right? Which makes our closing process significantly easier when we get down to it, right? So some key points to phoning success, right? 1, know your schedule ahead of time. And for the love of God, do not organize your schedule during phone time. Okay. There's all kinds of different times you can do phone time. There's all kinds of different times that you can do phone time throughout the push, right? Phoning is for whenever you're not able to be in a demo in any capacity, right? Organizing your schedule is for the times that you aren't able to do a demo or be on the phone with somebody. So in the morning, if you want to get up super early, I don't recommend doing that because it's going to be pushed. You're going to be tired. I recommend doing it in the evening and making sure everything's dialed in. And if you don't have that before you start phoning, it needs to be done sooner than later, right? Do not book over your demo times. Period. Point blank. I don't care how big the person is. I don't care what, you're hurting for demos, whatever. That your phone time consistently is a thing that's going to keep demos in front of you. Okay. What you see happen all the time, and we see this happen every single year, the difference between champions that stand on stage and go on limo night and have $10,000 pushes, the difference between those people and the people that sell 4, 5, 6, maybe $7,000 and don't quite make it, right? Or don't quite get over that hump, or don't quite hit their goal if they're on the 10K Alliance or anything like that. The difference between those people is that the people that actually are on stage are the ones that honor their demo times and could consistently keep demos in front of them, right? It doesn't do me any good if I hit a home run and have a $1, $2, $3, $4,000 order on one demo. If I don't have anything else in front of me for the next week, I lose momentum for anywhere from 1 to 3 days by missing that phone time. If you want to keep momentum in front of you consistently, honor your schedule and honor your phone times. All right. That's a number one thing. Keep those in front of you, because here's the thing. While that one person may go sell $1, $2, $3, $4,000, if you have a phone jam and you book up 5, 7, 10 demos during that time period because you're calling for a few hours, I'd much rather have 10 appointments in front of me than one appointment in front of me. I think everybody here could agree with that. Right? It's just a numbers game. Sales is actually relatively simple. Right? A huge part of what I teach, and a huge key for most new reps especially, is to be where your feet are. A lot of this comes in with scheduling, right? When it's time for you to be a Cutco rep, be a Cutco rep. If you're in push from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., right? 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., it's on the phone or on a demo, period, point blank. No exceptions. If you have a demo cancel last second, it's not, oh, well, let me go, take a nap real quick, or let me go do something else. No, you're supposed to be working during that time period. So show up for yourself and do what you told yourself you were going to do the whole time. And show up and help believe in that, right? It also builds trust inherently within yourself. So whenever you're going after something hard, or you're actually in that moment where you have a decision to make that could make or break your entire push, it'll actually help you show up and make a better decision because you trust yourself at a higher level, right? Key number 2, your environment during phone time sets you up for success or for failure. I'll write that down because that gets overlooked so often. Your environment during phone time sets you up for success or sets you up for failure. There's no in between. Okay. So has anyone here ever gone to make phone calls? Let's say, oh, I'm going to make them from the house instead of at the office. And then what do you know? A friend comes over, someone calls you. a family member comes in or someone just needs your help. And before you know it, you just lost 45 minutes of your phone jam. Has that ever happened to anybody before? 100%. Me as well, right? If it hasn't happened to you yet, then great job making calls at the office. And if you're not making calls at the office, then do more demos and it'll happen eventually, right? Now, here's why that's important. If you're in an environment where you show up and you're saying, hey, I need it quiet, I need to have my leads organized, my schedule in front of me, I need to have my script. Guys, I was at almost probably $600,000, $700,000 in sales before I felt confident enough with my scripts and objection handling that I felt like I had it memorized where I didn't have to have a script in front of me. Literally at court of honor level, making phone calls to people with a script in front of me, reading it off. Because all it takes is that one person. You know what? Maybe you get the right person on the phone, but you don't have it in front of you. Don't quite say the right thing, something gets away from you, whatever it is. Well, that one person might have not only been a set sale, they might have introduced you to 10 other people that could be a set sale as well, right? You have an opportunity in front of you with every single person that you call. Make sure you're capitalizing on it and setting yourself up for success, right? A really easy way to sound warm and friendly on the phone, by the way, is smile while you dial. Smile while you're on the phone with clients and while you're talking to people, right? If I'm talking like this, it's going to somewhat come across in my voice versus if I'm talking like this and having a nice conversation, you can start to hear the tonality differences. It's very, very subtle. But whenever you can show up like that with a smile on your face, it sounds warm, it sounds welcoming. Because keep in mind, the person on the other side of the phone has no idea who you are aside from you referred from their friend. Maybe they're a friend or family member. Maybe they're on the fence about letting somebody over. That one smile could be the difference between you actually getting in the door and having a demo and not. You're just having a conversation, nothing more, nothing less, right? The energetic you want to have when you're on the phone with somebody is I want to work with you, but I don't need this appointment. I don't have to have it right this second, but I'm really excited about it. I'm working really hard towards a big goal. Is there any way you could possibly squeeze me in? We don't want to sound desperate. We want to make sure that we're sounding welcoming and also that we want to be there. And it needs to be known that we do want to be there. All right. Now, a question that I have for you guys, who here has ever wondered before what it would actually take to, predictably know, hey, this is exactly how much money I'm going to make this week? Anybody ever had that come up? Yeah. Right. I'm about to share something with you that's going to allow you to calculate that consistently. Let me put this in the chat here. Hold on. It's a link to a Google document. Let me get this here. There we go. It's a link to a Google document. When we talk about knowing your numbers, you want to start running a professional business and not just be the person that runs from one demo to another. When you start talking about running a business, you want to start to figure in how much could I make this week? How much time do I have? There's a few metrics that you're going to need to know, but here's a beautiful thing. Sales is simply a numbers game. It's patterns. It's percentages. You just play the numbers and you take enough reps. You're going to eventually get there, right? If you know this. So what does it actually look like at a fundamental level, right? Making sure, one, that we know our Vector Connect average order. Now, the reason I say Vector Connect on this is because that's your true average order. I've seen people before that try to say, oh, I did 5 demos last week and sold $5,000, so I have $1,000 average order. Not quite, right? You had it for that week and that's great. And I'm proud of you. Keep it up. All right. But your Vector Connect average order and making sure you're understanding that at a high level. You know your phoning ratio. Your phoning ratio is going to be the number of phone calls it takes you to book one appointment. Number of phone calls to book one appointment. Okay. From there, you need to know your closing ratio. Your closing ratio is number of appointments out of 10. If I give you 10 appointments or 100 appointments, how many of them are you going to get an order from? Company average, I believe, is somewhere between 60 and 70% currently for closing. I was a career 90 to 95% closer in Cutco. Right. So knowing your numbers and having them be realistic. If you're not tracking these things currently, start tracking them now. Or go back and look at your last 2-3 weeks and say, okay, cool. Here's how many appointments I did. Here's how many orders I got during that time period. Figure out your ratio. Right. And then last is how many calls can you make an hour? Typically speaking, most people are somewhere between 17 and 25, depending on how many people you're talking to and how many you're getting, right? Why is all this important? Why am I talking about numbers on a phoning for success message, right? If you have a sales goal for a week, you can start to reverse engineer and work backwards saying, hey, if I want to make X number of dollars, I just have to start with Y, right? Cool. Well, let's say I want to have a $5,000 sales week. Okay, great. How many orders is that going to take for me? Okay, well, I can figure out number of orders. In order for me to get this number of orders, I need to figure out how many appointments I'm going to have to complete. In order to figure out how many appointments I have to complete, I need to know how many phone calls I need to make, and I need to put those phone calls in my schedule at that rate. The number one mistake that I see happen with younger reps, especially when they start to get discouraged or start to get frustrated, they tell themselves, well, I want to sell a lot of Cutco. It's not clearly defined. I just want to sell a lot, right? Okay, great. Well, how are you going to sell a lot? I'm going to do a lot more demos, right? Okay, great. Well, how are you going to get a lot more demos? I'm going to make a lot more phone calls, right? The problem is, though, that in their mind, they say, okay, I'm going to do a lot of work that's not clearly defined with time in their schedule. And what happens then is that in order to hit their goal, they need to be making 100 or 200 or 300 calls a week. They went from 20 calls to 40 calls and they doubled their workload. But all of a sudden they felt like, well, I did a lot more work and I just didn't hit my goal. Oh no, the whole thing doesn't work. Maybe it's you. All right. If you know your numbers, if you know what's happening, you can reverse engineer your business. You have a dollar amount you want to make each year. This is how you reverse engineer it. You have a sales goal you want to hit. This is how you reverse engineer it. All right. And you can do this from day one. When people talk about there's no consistency in sales, I say, bull crap. You didn't play the game long enough. All right. Now, I know we're moving kind of quickly on this. Kathy, I appreciate you having me on here. I want to move into handling objections and something called firming up. Now, question, super quick. Who here knows what firming up is? Who here is utilizing this in your business? Awesome. You've got great managers. Keep listening to them, right? When you firm up an appointment, my last year that I was doing appointments in Cutco, I want to say I sold about 120 grand to past clients and other people, whether on demos or service calls, somewhere in there. It was roughly half my year that year, right? Thank you, Jacob. And firming things up, right? Had no shows on maybe 5 to 7 appointments out of probably 200 completed, right? Why is this important? Because, and why did I get to that number into that place? I made sure people kept commitments because I helped them understand that not only were they being nice by helping me, but I also helped them understand the pain and the frustration of me switching my schedule around and then having them no-show me, right? So here's how we do it. After you get the appointment, you figure out the time, everything's in there. Say, cool. Hey, Ms. Jones, thank you so much for helping me out with this. It really means a lot to me. If you could do me one last favor and just make a note really quick in either your phone or your calendar, however it is you keep track of your appointments best, I would really appreciate it. The other day, I completely moved my schedule around to accommodate someone else's schedule because they had something going on with their kids. And, I moved everything. And at the last second, they just said, okay, well, I can't make it. And they stood me up. And it was really frustrating because I was supposed to hang out with my family that day and I made an exception for them. And it was really frustrating. So I know you would never do that ever. But I would just really appreciate you making a note of that for me and writing that down. Right. You're asking them that, right. And you're telling them, hey, here's why it's important that we keep this because I'm going to commit to showing up at this time. And I need an equal commitment from you on this. Right. And if you don't show up, it's not just, oh man, sorry, didn't get to help you with your thing. It's like, no, I moved everything around for my day. And you're that person was the reason why my day had a geek thrown in it. Right. And got messed up. All right. Thank you so much for helping me out. Promise you a highlight every day. Reaffirm that time. All right. By doing this, people will start to understand, or for some reason, something legitimate does come up, right? They'll make sure to tell you. They'll start to reach out and say, I don't want to be the person that does this, right? It's okay to tell clients, hey, you know what? If this happens, like, yeah, it's a little frustrating. Like, it kind of sucks. It's not just okay, right? I really appreciate you helping me out. And also, it's not cool if I move my day around to do this and show you this product and make sure that I have time for you in my schedule and then you just don't show up for it. Right. And if they start to say, well, I don't know, it's like, cool. Why don't we find a time that we know for sure works for both of us? Start to see that they're kind of on the fence about it. Say, well, actually, you know what? Instead of Tuesday, I know for sure I'm free Wednesday. Let's do Wednesday instead. So they don't want to take a chance if they're going to be the person that ruins your day or does that to you. All right. Now, when it comes to handling objections, here's the reality, folks. A lead is not dead. A referral is not dead until they tell you absolutely no way, leave me alone. You either do the demo for them, they tell you to stop calling them. Okay. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that where you get a fresh batch of leads and all of a sudden, 2-3 weeks later, you're like, oh crap. Or maybe it's the end of the summer, middle of the summer now, and you got leads at the beginning of the summer you just never got in touch with, right? It's never too late. It's never too late to call somebody. right? And you dive back in with them. So someone comes to you and says, well, hey, well, those 2 times, I want to help you, but those 2 times don't work, right? Or people use this sometimes as a smokescreen objection to try as a reason maybe to not take the appointment. Hey, Ms. Jones, I totally understand. My schedule is super crazy right now too. But my goal means so much to me, and I'm just super committed to hitting my goal. Is that just a bad day or a bad time? I mean, literally, I'm willing to do an appointment as early as like 6 o'clock in the morning, all the way up to like 2 a.m. at night. I'm doing whatever I can to hit my goal. Is there any way you could possibly squeeze me in? I'll completely work around your schedule. All right. When someone who's successful sees a young up and comer who's hungry, who's willing to work hard and put in the work, and they're willing to do that. Because think about this for a second. How many of your friends are willing to wake up at 5 in the morning to be at a 6 a.m. demo, or to stay up late and be at a 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. appointment? Not many of them, right? So when someone who's actively out there grinding, who's working hard, who wants to do this, people that are successful will see that part of them inside of you. I'm like, you know what? If that person's willing to work so hard to do this just to sit down with me and show me this, and I can make a little bit of time too. And I can make this thing work, right? This is one of my favorites. Who here has ever gotten, hey, can you call me back? Cool. This is one of my favorite ones to handle, right? First thing I want to say is, yes, ma'am, absolutely, right? Yes, Ms. Jones, absolutely. When would be the best time to give you a call back? Right? Day, time, whatever. Okay, cool. You're sure you'll be available then? Awesome. Hey, well, just so you know, I actually had an opening on that exact time on that day. So if it's okay with you, why don't we just do it then? You flip the script on them a little bit. All right. Because why? Because they just told you I'm going to be available at this time to speak. Well, why don't we just do the demo then instead of trying to have a phone call and prolonging this? Super simple. All right. I don't know my schedule. Anyone else had this one happen before? Show of hands. I don't have my calendar in front of me. I don't know my schedule right now, right? Something to that effect. Easy one to handle. Hey, I totally understand. If it's okay with you, would it be all right if we just penciled something in for now and I can text you a day or two in advance just to confirm and make sure it still works? Answer is yes. Okay, cool. Right? Why are we doing this? It's a soft commitment. They're not asking them, are you guaranteed to be able to show up on this day at this time? We're saying, can you be there present for this? Right? Or can I pencil you in and confirm? Most people are usually open to that. Right? The difference then, the next question and follow up is cool. So what day or what time normally works best for you? Because the way a lot of adults work, just so you guys know, right? I know we don't have a ton of like professional, not professional, excuse me. We don't have a ton of adult sellers here that are 30 plus max, right? Married 30 to 65-year-old homeowners. So we say then the way a lot of people operate is they have their weekly schedule that's in place, and they know that on certain days, certain nights, at certain times, they have different things, which also means that they know that usually each week there's a time period that they have free that they don't have a prior commitment. Just ask them what day or time would normally work best for you, and then text them a day or two ahead of time. Right? And last one I'll leave you guys with here. I'm not interested. Right? This is a great one to handle. Right? Oh, I'm not interested. Hey, no worries. You actually don't even have to be interested at all. I get credit and paid just to show it, regardless of whether they're interested or not. And every appointment I do puts me one step closer to my goal. So is there any way you could possibly squeeze me in at like this day or at this time? I'll be super quick. I promise to be the highlight of your day, and it really helps me out. All right. And that's true. Every point we do does that. Now, here's the thing. How would they know they're not interested? They haven't even seen the product yet. They haven't seen the demo. They don't know what they're saying no to, right? It'd be like if you'd never heard of a Ferrari before and I walked up and said, hey man, I got a Ferrari I'm selling for $100. Just trying to move it. You want it? And you'd be like, I'm not interested. I don't know what a Ferrari is. Whereas if you actually knew what was going on and you took the time to see that point, you'd be like, heck, this is a deal of the century, right? It's the same concept, the same mindset with Cutco. They don't know what they're saying no to. So of course, how can they know they're not interested? They don't even know what they're looking at. They don't even know what the product is. They don't even know what the offer is. They don't know what's going on, right? So it's important to realize this and understand these things. Okay. All this being said, I'm gonna say a lot of what happens with phoning, the biggest thing that I could say for you guys, and the last tip I'll leave you with here, is just keep it simple. Sales is a repeatable process. The more appointments you have, the more you're going to sell. The more you sell, the more money you make. You want to make more money? make more phone calls, and do it consistently. Do it week in and week out. The first summer I came back from college and started selling Cutco full time as a professional, my biggest years previously to that had been about $33,000. I had a 30K SC2 on 76 appointments and had an 80K summer in that time period. It was really a breakout. Why was that? I committed to hitting my phone call goal for that summer, and that was it. I wasn't worried about how it played into the bigger picture of the campaign. I wasn't worried about anything else. My only commitment was how often can I make my phone calls and hit this? And at that time, non-push, I was making 250 phone calls a week. In push, that was 400 to 500 phone calls weekly. All right. Nothing great ever happens without great intention and without great work ethic. Are you willing to put in the work? Because I can tell you right now, if you're willing to commit to your phone calls, you're willing to honor your schedule and commit to making calls, even when you don't feel like it, great things will happen for you. That $30,000 push, I had the worst day of my career. At one point, I was 0 for 6. I'd never gone 6 appointments straight without having a sale. I got a referral from one person that was on that demo, right? Super money client, definitely should have sold him something, definitely did not, right? He puts down 3 names. I was in a funk, so I was like, whatever, forget this. 3 names, and at the very end, I mentioned in passing that we had a business gift program. He goes, oh, you do like custom stuff? Well, you should probably talk to this guy too. Writes down a 3rd name, right? I go to make phone calls at night. Now, keep in mind, imagine if you just had the worst day of your career. I'm not exactly in a great energetic or mental state, right? And I had a decision to make at 8:15. I really just wanted to pack it in, call it a day, be done. I told myself, no, I made a commitment to work every day until 9 o'clock, every single day. And so what I did was I got on the phone, I made those phone calls. I left a voicemail for somebody. I'm packing up. It's 9:30 at night, right? I'm ready to leave and go back home. I get a phone call from that 4th person that was on there, calls me back and says, oh yeah, like I've got some Cutco. I bought some of this stuff before. You get paid just to sharpen it and show me stuff. Like, okay, come on. Right. He's like, when are you available? Like, I know it's super last second. I've actually got some time tomorrow in my schedule. Is there any way you can squeeze me in tomorrow afternoon? I was like, yeah, come on by. The very next day, I had the biggest day of my career at that point, sold almost $6,000. My best day of my career right after the worst day of my career. And that wouldn't have happened. By the way, that one client that called me back that late bought almost $4,500 that day. All right. $2,000 in an hour and a half. I was making straight 50. If you're not at FSM yet, you should definitely put a plan in place to get there, because that's when the money just gets nasty. Right. Best day of my career right after the worst day of my career. Why? I can tie it back to that one specific phone call that I made when I wasn't excited, when I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like showing up. But like Kathy said, you make the decision on the front end. And I committed and made a decision that I was going to work till 9 o'clock every single day. And after making that last phone call, that was the difference in my push and me hitting my goal versus not hitting my goal. I sold my last $500 the morning of the conference and finished at $30,566. Right. That one point, that one decision paid dividends for me. Also, it's pretty dope to make 15 grand in 2 weeks. So that was pretty sick. Right.
It's not bad.
It was awesome. Yeah, guys, Kathy, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always, even though I'm no longer part of the Cutco community, it's really great to be able to give back to the company that gave me so much and the division that gave me so much. I've got a little bit of information here for you guys. I know Kathy had mentioned this at one point. I do sales coaching and mentoring, I say at this point in my career.